sitting with Phil Wickham, and he's got a brand new project out.
Yeah, we're really excited. We're going to share some of that in just a few minutes, but I'm going to go back a little bit and start from, making a connection with an artist is really important to us. And I want to try to make a connection with you, like,
let's do it.
On the same wavelength.
Same wavelength.
Mm-hmm.
We're leaving. We came in here,
right?
Associates. We're leaving.
Besties.
Brothers.
Okay.
Bros. So I thought, what could I connect with Phil Wickham on? And I thought, of all the things, I think probably facial hair would be the best connection.
Okay.
Because I noticed you don't have.
Well, I
facial
I didn't have time to shave.
You got a little shadow.
This is like my three days in right here.
Right.
But yeah, usually I keep it pretty clean.
But you're a clean-shaven guy. I'm a mostly clean-shaven guy. I cannot grow.
Except you do have a little of dusting up here and right under here, which is very distinguished, by the way, Bill.
Why, thank you.
We all love it.
I started growing this at 18 years old, and I've never shaved it.
Really?
It's been around a while.
Is this truth?
Yeah, this is truth.
Your stash?
Absolutely.
That's an amazing
It's been
fact.
there for a long time. So you don't
already the
See?
connection is happening.
The bro love has begun. Let's go back now to something that is another real connection here, which is Calvary Chapel.
Yes.
And that's where you grew up, right? You grew up at Chuck Smith's church.
Yeah, my parents were both saved back. I mean, if anybody saw that Jesus Revolution film or heard about it, when that church was exploding and they had to put up that tent out in the field, that's where my parents went and got saved. They're with Lonnie Frisbee and Chuck Smith, and so that's my legacy. I'm so thankful for Calvary and so many people and so many churches, and even the landscape of America, but really Southern California spiritually was changed because of Chuck Smith's yes to the Lord, to letting a bunch of hippies with dirty feet into his church. And my parents, I don't know if they were quite hippies, but they were these young teenagers trying to find what mattered to them. My dad was a guitar player. My mom was a singer, singing backup in in LA bars and stuff. And they found Jesus through Chuck Smith.
Wow.
And so that's why I exist, is because then my parents started a band together called Parable. They didn't really start a band. They were invited into it, so they didn't really even know each other yet. And so they were traveling around telling people about Jesus in this band called Parable, and that's how my parents fell in love in one of these old Jesus people bands.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Way across the country, 3,000 miles away, I'm a 19-year-old kid going to a job that I'm listening to the radio in the morning. I've got one foot in the church, one foot in the world at this point. And Chuck Smith is talking to me on the radio. I'd never heard anybody like this. I called him didn't know who he was. I called him the surfer preacher because he had just a way of speaking that reached in a different place than the guys I'd heard pounding the pulpits or pontificating. You know what I mean? He got into that space. The movie Jesus Revolution, if you could have played any part in that movie, which part would you have played?
Well, I think I'd have to be a little bit younger, but I would probably want to be Greg.
Yeah.
But I have to be a teenager to do it.
Yeah.
I love that story. I think his story is so victorious, and it's still continuing. Greg Laurie, he's played as a obviously, I mean, he's probably a 20-something-year-old actor, but he's supposed to be a teenager in high school, and who finds Jesus and has this really crazy life growing up. But what's crazy is that Greg now, I mean, he's kind of that next generation friend, but he's a good friend of mine, and we've done a lot of ministry together since then. I've learned a lot from him. I respect him a lot, and I've watched, just personally been a part of events where I personally watched over tens of thousands of people come to Jesus through Greg's preaching, and so that, honestly, if there's anything that I wish that movie showed more, I know there's time and all that, was just like what actually has happened because of Chuck Smith and Lonnie Frisbee's yes for this one kid. So many churches and so many people, but also this one kid, Greg Laurie, who found Jesus and went on to realize he's got a gift of evangelism, and now stadiums are being filled by the tens of thousands nightly.
And churches have been planted all over the world.
Yes.
Coming out of this. So my favorite Phil Wickham song, if I can be so bold to lead out with that, it's not the one you think. Maybe it's House of the Lord.
Okay, awesome.
It really is. And I love it because it's about the church.
Yes.
And I love the lyric in it. And this is just, you don't know me yet, but here's what I wrote down about the song. I love the song because the lyrics, while they're singable and simple, They're also what I call a faithful theological riff on things that we might otherwise miss. So, for example, when you start off the song, it's all about the eternity of God. We worship the God who was, we worship the God who is, who evermore will be. So it's the eternity of God. And then you dial down into the bridge. We were the beggars, now we're royalty. So there's new life in Christ, but just in a way that's richer theologically, but also more singable. We were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by his grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. I love that lyric.
I love that song too. And what's wild about that song, it's probably got the most just innate joy of any song I've written, I think. And it was written because I was feeling the opposite. Isn't that wild? In the middle of 2020, just like in probably the lowest point, couldn't get out in rooms with people. My church was meeting online. I'm a little bit like in prison in my house with my kids, like a little bit out in California. And my wife encouraged me. She's like, you always say, because she could sense it, you know, she's like, you always say to people, like, thank God, like spend some time thanking God and worshiping him, and watch how it affects not just the people around you, but watch how it affects you. I'm like, that's what you always say. You need to put money where your mouth is. And I was like, okay. So I kind of begrudgingly went to the piano, you know, and it's like, okay. I almost in tongue in cheek started singing "There's Joy in the House of the Lord."
Wow.
Because like almost sarcastic, because I wasn't in the house and we couldn't meet in the house. And then I started singing. I was like, you know what? Like I don't have to be in a building to be in his house. Like he lives in me, and wherever me and my wife are gathered in his name, he's in the midst, you know, wherever me and my kids are gathered. And so I started becoming like truth, even over like a 30-second moment. There's joy. And then I remember jumping up and be like, Mal, I think people are going to sing this one. Like, she's like, no, you always say that. I'm like, I know. And so I sing it. And then I went to what I always tell people is, well, I wanted to remind myself who God is, what he's done, and who I am in him. And so that was like a practice. If you read through the lyrics, we worship the God who was, who is, and evermore will be. He opened the prison doors. So this is what he is, this is what he does, and then bridges, who I am in him. We were the beggar. And by the end of that 45-minute moment, House of the Lord was written. And my whole countenance was changed. And it kind of became our family's little dance around the house song. And I had no idea people were going to sing it, but I just felt like, I think God just gave me something special. And now it's so cool to see what it's done.
What a cool story. House of the Lord, Phil Wickham on The Morning Cruise.